Bernie Sanders, fighting to raise wages for American workers.
The Bernie Sanders campaign has released their first 2020 ad, and it is solid. So he released it along with this tweet saying, "Defeating Trump is not enough. We need leadership that will fight for working families and the shrinking middle class, not just the 1%. That is exactly what I have done my whole life and what I am prepared to do as president." Here's the ad.
Living in a family that struggled economically, powerfully influenced my life and my values.
Bernie Sanders, fighting to raise wages for American workers, leading the fight to guarantee health care for all, standing up for civil rights, seniors, veterans, and our children's future. Whether it was Wall Street, the drug companies, or other powerful special interests, Bernie has taken them on for us. Now, our country is at a turning point, a dangerous demagogue tearing our nation apart. Hard-working people betrayed by Trump. A healthcare system that makes enormous profits for drug and insurance companies. And a planet on the brink of a climate disaster. In this moment, we need a fighter. Bernie Sanders. We know he'll fight for us as president because he always has.
I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
I love this ad. They really managed to pack a lot into it. I mean, this is a minute long. And when you think of a candidate like Bernie Sanders, who has so much history, has a 40-year record of fighting for people, has just endless proposals on his website, endless examples of how he has helped the average person, to be able to kind of, condense that candidate into a minute is a tough job. But I think they've done it here clearly. I think this will boost his support. So you have TV ads, and that is sort of like the audience that watches television generally, that sees commercials on television, that's the audience that Bernie needs right now. So he has the young people, he has people that are, watching YouTube videos like this. He doesn't have the people that are a little older, that are the generations that watch, CNN, MSNBC, and get their news from there, where largely those networks have been ignoring Bernie Sanders, even though he has been top 3 in every single poll, in many cases or most cases, first or second in most polls. He just had the biggest fundraising haul out of anybody. So this from the week, Bernie Sanders just had the best fundraising quarter of any 2020 candidate so far. And he's doing that with small individual donors. So he doesn't take any private money. He doesn't have any private fundraisers, doesn't take any corporate money, no corporate PACs, not even bundlers. Bernie Sanders, he raises his money from individual donors, mostly small individual donors. And I think the number now averages $19 a piece. So these are just the average people. And by far, he has the most individual donors and most individual donations. It's not even close. Not to mention the most volunteers, the most grassroots support in general. So you have a candidate here who has the history of fighting for people and now has an ad like this to be able to tell, the public at large that may have been completely ignorant of Bernie's history, now have a little more information on who Bernie Sanders is. And they mention, I think, really important pieces here. So fighting to raise wages. So it's one thing to say, oh, Bernie has fought income inequality. The term income inequality, while true, I don't think it really hits the average person as much as Bernie fighting to raise wages, which in that commercial, they show you how, just in one example, in one of many examples, in the case of Amazon, he got Amazon to raise their wages for their employees. So this is somebody who's had this power already. Just as a senator, he's done this. Imagine the kind of power he would have as president. They also mention, of course, him leading the fight to guarantee health care. I hope most people know this by now, that Bernie has been leading that fight. He's been saying the same thing about Americans needing a universal healthcare system for his entire career, standing up for civil rights. They brought up that image of him fighting housing discrimination as a college kid. So this is somebody who has been on the correct side of issues his entire life. Now, this is the kind of standard that you can't hold most people to. Most people, grow and evolve and change and learn as they get older. Bernie has had the the correct positions his entire life. This is a leader on issues. I mean, they could have brought up other issues, like how he was also a leader on gay rights. Back in the 80s, he held one of the first gay pride parades in Burlington, Vermont as mayor. So this is somebody who has been on the right side of all of these issues. There is no candidate that even comes close to this record. And again, you can trust him. You can continue to trust him because of where he gets his money from, the average person. And in addition to that, I guess they could have mentioned here as well that Bernie Sanders defeats Trump in every single poll. He has done so. Bernie has defeated Trump in every poll since 2016. And not just general election polls, because, popular vote doesn't really win you the election, as we saw with Hillary Clinton, but also in state polls. So in swing states, Bernie Sanders defeats Donald Trump. And just think back again to 2016. Bernie won states that Hillary lost, like Michigan. States that that the Democratic nominee would need to win in a general election against Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders speaks to those people, to the people in those states. And when you look at support in counties that went from Obama to Trump, Bernie by far, there's a story on this, Bernie by far has the most individual donor support in those counties that went from Obama to Trump. So, and that's even when you combine Biden and Warren's support together. Bernie still defeats them together. So if you're talking about a candidate that not only will stand up for you and fight for you as president, but also can easily defeat Donald Trump, has the support needed to defeat him, is even able to, look, I'm not one to, I don't think people should really, or these candidates should really try and go after Trump voters or go after conservative voters, because there are enough non-voters in America to be able to win a race without needing those people. But not only does Bernie get those non-voters out to vote with his bold message, gets those independents. Again, he's an independent senator as well. That appeals to people that are sick of these two parties. You have somebody here who is willing and has fought back against the establishments in both parties. But also, Bernie is able to speak to some of those Trump voters. He's able to bring a message out there where Trump clearly lied about what he was going to do in terms of helping people, whether it's on wages or healthcare. Total liar. Bernie Sanders can expose that and bring forth what actually needs to be done in these various areas to help people. There is one candidate in this race that has this message and can defeat Donald Trump, and you can trust, and clearly that candidate is Bernie Sanders.